Howdy, howdy, ho. Welcome to the Brinx, Hearse podcast. My name is Ryan McNeil.
Michael Frieri.
And I like fiction. Mikey, do you like fiction?
I like fiction.
And you can't have good fiction without a good character. And today we're going to be counting down our top 10 fictional characters of all time. And this is anything, a book, a movie, a TV, a show. I think everything's going to be a movie or a show for us, though.
I do have a couple games, actually.
A couple games? Okay, that's good, that's good. Mix it up. Oh, I think I know who's going to be in there.
I think you know.
I have a hunch. I think it's Mikey Frost, your MLB The Show character, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, that's a good point. I'll throw him in my honorables.
Do you have any honorable mentions aside from that?
I do. Do you?
Yeah, I got a long list of honorables. You list yours off.
Okay, I only threw in 4, but I'll go. I have Walter White, Jesse Pinkman, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Thorfinn from Vinland Saga.
Okay. My honorable mentions, I got Deadpool, Ron Burgundy, Buddy the Elf, Truman Burbank, Vito Corleone, Michael Corleone, Luke Skywalker.
Corleone, but I cut him out.
Okay, yeah. Carrie White, Charlie Brown, Mary Poppins, George Bailey, Spider-Man, Ferris Bueller, Napoleon Dynamite, and this one might surprise you. In the honorable mentions, Tony Soprano.
I'll also give an honorable mention to NoHo Hank.
Yes! Honorable mention to NoHo Hank. Honorable mention to Fuchs. Honorable mention to everybody in Barry.
Can I say I actually think Fuchs is my most hated character in all of television?
Do you hate,
Not in a bad way.
you hate... Okay,
the fact that
you think
he serves his purpose.
You think he's a good character? Okay, yes,
yeah.
That's what matters.
You
don't hate him, his place in the show. You hate him as a
no,
person.
I don't hate him like how people hate Skylar White.
Okay, exactly. Okay,
but I mean, I don't hate Skylar White either.
Neither do I. I don't understand that hate. I mean,
it's just misogyny.
I think she's. Yeah, I think she's actually a reasonable person.
Yes. Anyways, we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
Unless she's on
Mikey,
the list.
hit me.
She's not.
No, Skylar didn't make my list. Marie did, though. So, Mikey, hit me with your number 10 all-time greatest fictional character.
My number 10, I'm actually starting with a video game. Not the one you think.
Okay.
This is a video game called Red Dead Redemption 2. It's about cowboys. I'm going with the protagonist, Arthur Morgan. This guy, so he's... I'll sum it up for you. He's in a gang, obviously. He's in I don't know what you would call it, but he's a lone
Would you call it a posse?
Yes, a posse. Thank you. I completely forgot. Posse. Anyways, and he's a very rough around the edges, macho man. And then, spoilers, guys, if you haven't played the game. I think there's going to be spoilers for a lot of these characters' fates.
We'll spoil everything. This guy dies, right?
Yes. So he find out halfway through the game that he's diagnosed with tuberculosis, and back in the Western days,
yeah. If you got a cut back in the Western days, that was a death sentence.
Yes, and so this takes a dramatic change on his character arc, where instead of being this tough guy, and he's always a tough guy, but he's not. He's much more vulnerable now. There's a very good moment. There's a great moment in the game where he's talking about it, and he says, he's like, "I'm scared," and it just sums up so much. And he starts to lose faith in his posse, his leader. He gets backstabbed, but if you play the game right, because you get decisions, but the right choice, the canon decision, he gives it up. He gives up everything for a young gun.
Okay.
He lets him walk. He saves him and walks away. And so Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel to Red Dead Redemption 1, and that young gun is the protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 1.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yes. Great stuff. I think Rock. I'm not one of the greatest characters I've ever seen, and it came out of nowhere. I just picked up this game. I was like, "Oh, this looks cool." I played Red Dead Redemption 1, but to see such depth in storytelling was amazing.
And he's just in this one thing.
He's just in this one thing. He never existed in Red Dead Redemption 1 either. He was never mentioned Obviously, he died beforehand, but he was never mentioned or anything. So he was conceived, and
solely for this.
they did it so well.
I do have to, because you brought Red Dead Redemption 2, I should tell the story that in sophomore year, we were all in our dorms at what was it, 10 p.m. at night, maybe?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, it was a little later at night, and we were all just kind of chilling, and the fire alarm goes off.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm walking out, Mikey's still in, as it goes off, Mikey was playing Red Dead Redemption 2. And I hear from down the hall him scream, "No! My posse! No!"
we were online playing. We were in a fight with another posse, and when the fire alarm goes off, you gotta leave and whatever.
Yeah.
So and I knew the game was gonna kick me out for being idle when I sat there.
Yes.
When we sat outside for a good 40 minutes.
It wasn't that long.
I got a burrito in between.
Oh, was it that time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They usually weren't that long. That one was long.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyways, that's my number 10.
I love it. My number 10, this is an example of sometimes knowing less is more. Because sometimes when you know the beginning, the middle, and the end of a character, it can kind of be too much. It makes them seem a little too... There's no mystique to them anymore. Mm-hmm. My number 10, I'm going Beetlejuice. Because we know very little about Beetlejuice as a character, really.
Wow. You thought a lot for this list.
Beetlejuice he's a spirit of some kind. He's a ghost of some kind. We know he was living at one point, but now he's dead. He's been dead for a long time, we know. He has supernatural abilities and powers. He's living in the small model for no reason. I know he's been exiled from the land of the dead, so he's the worst of the dead. And it's a fascinating world already that you don't know everything about. And Beetlejuice is he embodies that. You don't know everything about him, but you almost like it like that. The mysteriousness of him is what makes him so alluring. It makes him such an interesting character, I feel.
Would this kind of ruin it? Would you be open to a prequel to Beetlejuice?
That could be interesting. The problem is, they are probably going to do the sequel. It looks like they're going to do it.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to do a sequel because there have been rumors for years that Tim Burton, after Wednesday, he really likes Jenna Ortega. Yeah. So she's going to play Winona Ryder's daughter in this upcoming movie, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because that tracks and everything. But the problem is about doing anything like a prequel, though, is I think Michael Keaton in this is maybe his best performance.
I was about to say, I would consider
he's
this his best
amazing. Yeah, he's amazing in this. This one, and the look and the mannerisms, the voice is so iconic that if you try to have somebody else do it, it could easily fall flat. And I'm just hoping for this sequel that Michael Keaton's still down to do it, and he still has the energy. I think he still has the energy to do it, but
yeah,
it's going to be a tough one to replicate because it was done so incredibly well the first time. But yeah, Beetlejuice number 10.
Is there other Beetlejuice material outside of the movie, or is it just the movie?
They made an animated series, and there's a very successful Broadway play.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's the musical that people love. I don't know how different they are, how much it expands on the lore. I've only seen the movie, but still, just going off of that, he cracks my top 10.
Cool, I like it.
Yeah. So you got it. You're number 9.
You dug deep, man. I didn't think this far outside the box. But actually, this one is probably my most surprising pick, and I think I would consider this guy the best, or the funniest character in all of television. And I'm talking. What, you want to take a guess?
Is it someone from How I Met Your Mother?
No.
Oh, okay. Who is it?
George Costanza.
Ah, I think I did see George in my honorable mentions, but I missed it in there when I split up the movie and TV. But yeah, George, probably maybe the best TV character of all time.
I think
maybe the funniest TV character of all time.
He might be the funniest character ever. Not even just
on
TV. He just not even. I mean, when he the things he says and the things he does is funny enough, but he's the type of guy who's funny just for being on screen, just looking at him,
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many good moments, and I also like this. He's the fact he's just always down on his luck,
Yeah, but I think we love him because he's also he's stupid enough to keep trying it, I guess, but he's also hopeful. He's always thinking oh, it'll be different this time.
Yeah,
And he like,
he's the
I don't
indomitable
know.
human spirit.
It is, yes. He keeps chugging along no matter what.
Yeah.
And every job he's had was great. Cruder Industries, and then he works for the Yankees. I mean, George Costanza is maybe the best TV character ever for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
And we should have specify a 9A and 9B. It should be 9A George Costanza, 9B Frank Costanza, to give another shout out to the great Jerry Stiller.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah,
I could actually have any Jerry Stiller role of all time on this.
yeah.
List.
If we were including Jerry Stiller, it'd be 10 Jerry Stiller roles in a row. So we had to contain ourselves.
I have to say, I was seriously considering Arthur. Like seriously,
I should have dug deeper into the sitcom characters.
Not only
because
I think a close second to the funniest character on TV is Arthur.
So, that's a really good pick.
Yeah. The comedy stuff was kind of, it was almost like a little bit of a wild card because comedy, you don't have like depth in character arcs, I guess, but there's a lot to be said about just being a funny character.
Yeah.
And
my number 9, we have a character very similar to George Costanza. Actually, we have Wolverine. I went with, and I obviously
both share the fury of 1,000 suns.
Exactly. And I am purely basing this off of Hugh Jackman's portrayal. Okay. Never read an X-Men comic. No, I've seen actually a few episodes of the animated series, but that's not enough to really boost my case. But
on VCR.
Oh, really? Yeah, of the animated series? Wow. But yeah, I mean, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Can't say much more that hasn't been said. Perfect casting.
Definitive in the role.
Yeah, they did it for so many years, and he is one where you kind of know almost everything. Yeah. You know his like definitive end and everything, but Logan was such a great movie, and it was done so well that like I'm okay with all that.
Yeah, I think.
And
Logan is probably one of the. I'm trying to think.
That might be top 5 comic book movie of all time.
Yeah, I agree to that, but I'm trying to think. I haven't seen much X-Men movies. So
yeah, I mean, they're almost basically kind of Wolverine movies, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I think they knew what they had in their hands, especially X2, X-Men United, which is probably the best of like the original X-Men movies. He's fantastic in it, and it's pretty much a Logan-based story.
Yeah. Okay.
That and X-Men: Days of Future Past is also fantastic, where he is again the main character.
Yeah. And
but
like you said, he's like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. You can't. I know we're going into like, Fox was acquired by Marvel, or Disney, and you could possibly recast, but you can't. You can't recast Hugh.
That's why
recast Robert Downey as Iron Man.
Yeah, and when they said like, "Oh, we're doing mutants, we're gonna eventually get to the X-Men," I thought to myself like, for a couple reasons, I was like, I just don't want Wolverine to be in the movies because people are just going to compare it to Hugh Jackman. And also, in the originals, because they were Logan-centric movies, the other X-Men didn't get as much time to shine or develop. So it would be really cool to get an X-Men movie where it is Jean Grey, Cyclops, Storm, they all get to be much more developed, have their own arcs, because they didn't really get that in the first movies.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So Wolverine could be addition by subtraction. We are getting him one more time in Deadpool 3.
Yes, I think this was the right choice, too. Actually, I heard rumors that this is predominantly a Wolverine movie.
Wow. I have no idea how it's going to happen or work. I mean, they did say, like, right away, Logan, he died in Logan, so this is something else. I mean, they're timelines, multiverse, whatever.
This is what I heard was a synopsis. So there's some, like, issue. Deadpool, like, something happens with, like, him and the TVA, and I think he, like, opens up these, like...
Oh, okay.
And the villain is Owen Wilson, trying to stop Deadpool with his shenanigans.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That's amazing.
That would be so cool. I would like... I don't know if just Owen Wilson would work. Owen Wilson and Loki.
Would be pretty good.
Owen Wilson with Loki as, like a buddy cops trying to catch him. Oh. Like two duos going at each other. I think that could be cool.
That could be cool, too, actually, yeah.
But yeah, and Wolverine, he's a loner, he's rugged, but he's still, like, it's not like he doesn't care about anybody.
No.
Like, he'll put his life on the line.
Yeah.
So that's my number 9. Who you got for your 8? Your Oto.
My number ocho. I am going to say this is the best character in the Breaking Bad BCS series, as it's the only character in the series that made my list, and that is Jimmy McGill.
Yeah, that should have been my honorable mentions.
Yeah, this actually reminds me, I'm going to throw an honorable mention to Nacho.
Yeah, we should throw honorable mentions to Nacho, Lalo, Mike Ehrmantraut,
and Chuck.
And Chuck.
Chuck was a good character, man.
He was.
Bill Burr.
Skinny Pete.
Skinny Pete. So Jimmy McGill, you see the rise. This is obviously mostly because of Better Call Saul. But I think watching Better Call Saul and then seeing Breaking Bad, it gives you so much a much different insight, and you kind of understand why he acts like he does what he does. And like we said, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul play off each other. It's not a one-way street, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Jimmy McGill, before Better Call Saul, you see Jimmy McGill, or Saul, and you would think he's always been like this, you know? He's always been like this sleazy guy.
Yeah.
He is, kind of, but never to this extent, you know. You see, in Better Call Saul, you see everything that led to the breaking point, you know. Everything with Chuck and him getting tied up with Lalo and the cartel, and everything with, you know, I think the falling out with what's her name? Kim was the straw that broke the camel's back, you know.
Yeah.
And then we also see what happens after the fact. Yeah.
And like I said, like, when they went back to do Better Call Saul, they didn't make him like a Boy Scout who becomes like this slime ball. He's kind of a, I guess he's a little bit of a sleazy guy or whatever. He can do some cheap stuff, but he's not a criminal.
No, he's
just a park bench lawyer. He's a goofy lawyer. And then as he becomes more successful, we see like, he's like a genuinely really bad guy.
So I think you always hear like, Slippin' Jimmy was that nickname that they called him back in the day. And you see him, he's first really trying to break out of like this stereotype. He doesn't want to be that guy really. And he's trying really hard, but he just gets so beaten up and that he eventually, he just goes all the way back and like full-fledged other side of the spectrum. He's going, not Slippin' Jimmy, he's going all deeper into the depths of Dante's Inferno as Saul Goodman, you know? And you see at the end, one of the best redemptions.
Oh, yes. Better Call Saul has a fantastic finale. And I like how you said that. It's a two-way street where Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad are both better because of the existence of the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. My number 8. It kind of falls again into the Beetlejuice category of the less you know, the better. And that's why I went with Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka? This is so strange. Go on.
My list is weird. I'm not basing off not the Tim Burton one. I'm just looking at the one that came out in the 70s, Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Where very mysterious, lots of mystique, but the whimsicalness, if that's a word, is just off the charts.
Yes.
And you can tell he knows everything, that he's very calculating, he's very smart, but he's still having fun with it all. Mm-hmm. And again, like, you never figure out how the whole factory works. There's lots of very surreal moments when they're in the factory, and when he sings Pure Imagination in the giant room where you can eat everything.
Oh, one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, it's an amazing scene, and that's a great song that he sings too, before he takes them on the riverboat, and then it's this terrifying sequence, and then he sings a song in the creepy song in there. So you can never really pin the guy down. None of the parents ever really trust him. They're always unsure of him, and I think that's what makes him so interesting to me. Is you never know, you have no idea what he's going to do next.
Yeah,
and he's such a wild card, and I mean to reach this point too, where he owns just a chocolate factory, and he never comes out, and it's the biggest chocolates in the world, and I've never read the book. Or if I did, I read it a long, long time ago. So I can't speak to how much they dive into there. But Willy Wonka, he's just a fantastic character in my opinion.
I agree. I think there was one like a little cool fact that Gene Wilder made the decision right in the beginning of the movie. He's walking, like when he's first revealed, he's limping with a little cane.
Oh yeah.
He does the somersault, and Gene Wilder
Yeah.
said, so from that point on, the viewer will never trust what he
Yes.
does. You know.
Yeah, which is such a great. You never know what he is from the very beginning. That's so true. Because I think I had heard that story before, and yeah, and that's one of the best character intros too. You see him come out and limping, and it's dead quiet. Nobody knows really what's going on, and then he does that.
Yeah.
And the unpredictability of the whole movie, you don't know what's coming next, and it's because of him.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to go with Willy Wonka.
Good pick.
Thank you. Who you got? Who you got? Number 7.
Number 7, I got. I did say George is the indomitable human spirit, but
yes.
This might be the definitive.
Yeah.
And that's Samwise Gamgee.
Ah. Yeah.
He this is one of those movies where I really can't stand the protagonist, Frodo. I can't stand it because what would you call it? The dude or protagonist, the secondary, is so much better in so many respects. And he was kind of just a guy. I don't think he was, he referred to, they weren't like best of friends beforehand. He always referred to him as Mr. Frodo, very respectful.
Yeah.
He was just kind of like a guy that was just carrying out his job, and he just kind of got thrown to it. And the lengths he goes to help out Mr. Frodo, it just shows how strong someone's will can be. And that great scene where he's carrying him on his back and he's all dirty he's going up the mountain and stuff like that. Just amazing. And I think he's the best part of the entire trilogy.
And everyone needs a friend like Samwise Gamgee, first of all. And it's towards the end of the first movie where he like, is it him where he's like almost drowning and Frodo saves him, or the other way around or something?
I don't remember.
I remember there's a scene where somebody's underwater and it like really drags.
I think you could make the argument that everything drags in Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah, that's very true. But yeah, Samwise, Sean Astin plays it very, very well. And yeah, I can understand the relationship between them. Like, it's kind of weird because they're not like best buddies. Exactly. They're not like Merry and Pippin.
I think that's what makes it
they're
so
just kind of like, yeah, they're just like, all right, let's do this. And then they keep going.
Yeah.
But Samwise is definitely more, I guess, kind of more noble. Mm-hmm. He might not be as recklessly brave as Frodo, but he still gets things done.
And I think he would be, I think, the only character to wield Mjolnir.
Oh, that's right, yeah. After he wields it, Thor could never even pick it up again himself.
No, sir.
Mjolnir would have new standards.
Yeah.
That's your number 7, correct?
That's my number 7.
Did you have one more thing?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. My number 7, I'm going with from one of my favorite movies, Die Hard, John McClane.
Great pick.
Now, it was at a time especially where every action hero was muscle-bound, greased-up guy with a giant gun, and it was just pure testosterone. Bruce Willis as John McClane is a dad. He's not in great shape. He's just an off-duty cop. He's having troubles with his marriage. He's got a receding hairline, but he still saves the day.
Yeah.
Because it's still an action movie, and it's a kind of a crazy idea. It's still so much like it's a damn documentary compared to like a Schwarzenegger movie at the time. It's so much more grounded.
I think John McClane redefines what an action star can be.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we would have gotten like a John Wick without a John McClane.
I was about to say John Wick, yeah.
Yeah, because he's living alone, he's a widower, his dog dies, but he's like this badass.
Yeah, and he's
he's
not this huge guy like Schwarzenegger or Stallone. Stallone ain't that big, but whatever.
He was muscle bound. He wasn't like tall though.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think the best thing about Bruce Willis is you never feel like he's invincible in this movie. Every time he's in danger, it like feels like it could be it.
Yeah,
because he's not like those other guys.
and I think also to what I was saying about redefining what an action character can look like. I don't think this came up before Terminator 2, but the Terminator 2 villain.
Die Hard did.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
that's a very good point.
That gave some leeway, I feel like.
Yeah, because that's really just a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. The T-1000. Yeah, we should do a best villains episode.
We should. All right, let's write that down.
Yeah.
Also, one of my favorite parts of the movie were the great scenes with him talking into the mic with, I forget what the character's name was, but
Hans Gruber. Oh, you mean Sergeant Al Powell?
Yeah. It just gave like such an insight on both of their lives.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know.
And he also like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even when he's in this danger, like he talks with Hans and he talks with Powell, he still like makes some jokes and he's kind of lighthearted. So he's still like, he's not like never feels sorry for himself.
Yeah, exactly. I think he is also much like Samwise, where he's kind of just thrown into it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be there at all.
Yeah, and he's just like, he's got to take care of what he need. He's got to do what he's got to do.
Exactly. And Hans Gruber also could have easily been in the top 10 movie characters of all time.
Yeah.
Him, and I also, not just Die Hard, but Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance. He's also fantastic. And he, even more than the first one, he's so down on his luck, but he still does what he has got to do.
I've only seen the first one.
You'd really like the third one. It's a good summer movie.
How's the second one?
Second one's like fine. It's a different director, but it's just kind of an action movie. Like there's not as much special about it.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. So who you got at your number 6 now?
Here comes the one you were expecting. Video game. We're
talking
Kratos.
Oh.
Kratos of the God of War series. How many games? There's 3. I think like 3 games on the 3 God of Wars, and then there was I think like 2 handheld ones or like spin-offs, and then now 2 of the reboot, not really reboot, but God of War 4 and God of War Ragnarok. And I think what really made him such a good character was in the 2 most recent games in God of War 4 and Ragnarok, but I think looking over all together, everything is so perfect. But this really drove it home, where the first 3, he's like in Greece, he's a god of war. He's a brutal murderer. He's angry. He's a wrath, you know. He's killing gods left and right, whatever, just for revenge on his. So his origin story is that his wife and daughter in Sparta, he was a Spartan, were killed by, I think it was Ares, and the reason why he has pale white skin is because, or no, I think he ended up killing his parents or his family, whatever. But maybe whatever, because his skin is like all pale, and the god, I think Ares, like seared his family's ashes onto his skin, and that's why he's all white. And so the entire time he's, you know, just so angry over everything. And now in the God of War 4 and Ragnarok, he traveled to a distant land in Norse mythology. Don't ask me how that works. And he has a son, and he had a wife. Wife dies right in the beginning of the first one. That's not really a spoiler. So, and he kind of redefines what it means to be a man, where a god is now trying to clean up his mistakes. He's trying to be a father. He's trying to... What are you smiling about?
No, I'm remembering the time you were playing the new God of War, and
oh god,
there was some level or something where it started with a guy going, "He is the guardian of this realm," and you were dying so quickly that I heard it at my desk like every 60 seconds.
That was the Surtur fight.
Okay.
He is the guardian of this realm. Anyway.
And then I'd be sitting there and I'm like, it's coming again. He is the guardian of this realm.
Tough fight, I have to say. Anyways.
Clearly.
he redefines what it means to be a man, where he's trying to own up for his mistakes. He's becoming more in touch with his emotions and being real and honest with his son, so he lives a better life. And he doesn't want his son to make the same mistakes that he has, where he falls into this vengeance. He kind of decides for peace. He wants to. He only wants to kill when ever so necessary at this point. But he still got that dog in him. No matter what. Yeah, Kratos, man. What a one of the best character arcs.
Is he your best video game character ever?
Yes, he is my best video game character.
At my number 6, I'm going with another one where another kind of falls into the you don't know much. Quint from Jaws. One of my favorite characters of all time. Have you seen Jaws?
Yes, I have. But who's Quint?
He's like the old rugged fisherman with like the mutton chops.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, he's just the coolest dude, and he knows exactly what he's doing. But he almost like you don't know much about him. He's very mysterious, but like then at times he like reveals like where his scars came from. He tells the stories about the sharks in the Pacific, and it's like when like an old relative like reveals something about their life you never knew from 30 years ago, and it just makes him more interesting. But he also kind of he loses it a little bit towards the end because they have the shark in sight, and Hooper calls for the radio, like, "Oh, we need another ship out here," blah 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 blah, and he breaks the radio because he's like, "If someone's gonna do it, it's gonna be us. I'm either gonna get it now or I'm gonna die doing it," and he does die doing it. And fishermen are already just kind of, just in life, I feel, are interesting guys.
Yeah.
Just what they go through, that as their occupation, and they're very rugged individuals, and they go through some really hard stuff. And Quint, I feel like, embodies that, and he feels like he's a very New England character too, where guys like that don't really exist anywhere else, I feel, or as much so, where you can find 5 of them if you go to any dock. So I always loved Quint, and he drinks a nice Narragansett beer. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, I think he was I think he was the most personality in that movie, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think Hoop is really good too, where he's kind of like just a guy who's like, well, gotta kill the shark. Fuck.
Oh, you're thinking Brody?
Oh.
Brody was the cop on the island.
Okay, Brody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the dynamic, Hooper's like the kid like right out of college with the beard and the glasses. Him and Quint play off each other so well.
Okay.
Because he's got all these sophisticated techniques, and Quint's like, we're just gonna shoot it.
Yeah.
And so it's one of my favorite movies. It's one of the best movies ever. So, and Quint's one of the reasons for it. So that's my number 6.
Good pick. My number 5?
Believe so.
Yeah, 5. The Dark Knight, Batman.
That's my number 5.
Hey, all right, cool, man.
Fist bump.
Do you have a specific portrayal?
No, I just said Batman.
I actually might prefer the Arkham games Batman as my favorite Batman. So he might be my favorite video game character.
Okay. I like that. How many did Conroy voice did he voice all the Arkham games or only a few?
So he voiced there's 3 main Arkham games.
Okay.
And then there was one spin-off called it wasn't the same studio that made it. It was called Arkham Origins, where it was like before everything, and they had like a younger voice on it. But yeah.
Okay.
He did all the main ones.
Okay. Yeah. If I had to pick a like definitive version, I would pick the animated series voiced by Kevin Conroy.
I think any Kevin Conroy Batman is.
Yeah, I think of Batman voice, I think of him.
Yeah,
he's what comes in my head, and the animated series especially is like outside of the comics is the definitive version for me. That's what I think of. But again, we've gotten so many great different versions. Keaton's great, Bale's great, Pattinson's great. Affleck didn't have time to shine, but there's a reason he's one of the best characters ever.
I think Affleck could have been great.
Oh yeah, if they let him make like his own movie, that was the plan for a long time.
Yeah, I think you're right. There hasn't been a fucked up Batman yet. There hasn't been a Batman that was fucked up. You know.
Well, the like George Clooney one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Because they tried to make it like campy but still a little serious, and it just didn't land at all.
Okay.
But it shows it's hard to fuck up. We've gotten so many of them.
Yeah, it's true.
And they're almost all great.
Because he's so complex, you know. He's a guy that he seems very, you know, scary, but he wanted to just make up for his lost mom and dad.
Yeah,
he's
a wildly
kid almost.
Yeah, he's a wildly troubled and like anxious individual who, I mean, it's a problem that he's doing this in the first place. Like, these are not healthy things for a person to do.
Yeah.
And it's just in the duality also that the best ones pull off between Batman and Bruce Wayne, where he has to have this whole extra persona. Because sometimes, like, Peter Parker has a persona, but it's basically his same personality when he's in the suit or out of the suit.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of
Bruce
sense.
Wayne has to be a smiling face, and he's this playboy. Well, meanwhile, he's almost dead inside.
Yeah.
And I always liked, I think Connor was the first one to do this, where when he's talking with Alfred, like like with the cowl off, he still uses the Batman voice to like almost imply that he's more Batman than he is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
That like when he talks to clients, like the Bruce Wayne voice, that's the voice he's putting on for people.
Mm-hmm. Well,
which I think is interesting.
In The Dark Knight, when they're doing like the masquerade party, he doesn't wear a mask because Bruce Wayne is his mask.
I always like that idea too. Yeah. That like
he's really Batman.
That isn't him. Yeah, when he has the cowl on, like that's when he's comfortable. That's himself.
I think there's also maybe like an animated scene, or it might be a comic. I think it was a comic where Wonder Woman does the lasso of truth on Superman and maybe like the Flash and him to see what their real name, who they really are, and all of them give away their secret identities. Except for him, he said Batman because he's really Batman.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. That's so cool. Actually, I've never seen that.
Yeah. And also I think the stuff with the Bat family is really good because he, even though he wants to make up for his lost parents, he really has a hard time being a father figure, and it shows like really well where he makes a lot of mistakes. And he's kind of just subjecting them to his trauma.
Yeah, I think the Bat Family is one of my favorite things that I'm happy we're getting in like the new James Gunn DC movies, because there are so many more interesting dynamics that you get with the character, whether like him and the dynamic between him and Dick Grayson, him and Tim Drake, him and Barbara Gordon, they're all fascinating. And that also is a credit to he has the best surrounding cast of any superhero. Mm-hmm. Like he has all the best villains and everybody, so you get like the best out of him.
Yeah,
which makes the character even better. So there's a reason Batman is so high on both of our lists.
Yep.
So is it now back to my number 4, I think? Or?
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Okay. My number 4, we got Walter White.
Okay, yeah. I could have
honorable mention. Yeah, again, I don't need to say much more. Perfect transformation from mild-mannered to a guy who's so helpless, he goes to extremes, becomes meth dealer. Bryan Cranston made one of the best performances in TV history, probably, if not the best. Probably, I still think Breaking Bad's probably the best TV show I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there isn't much more I can say on Walter White.
He shows the signs of what's to come when he's before his transformation, you know? He still shows a lot of psychotic tendencies or whatever. Sociopathic.
And I also always like the ending because, like, he beats off a bigger evil with Todd and the Nazis, but he still doesn't get to live.
Oh, yeah, he's still a terrible guy.
Yeah, because I can't remember what the quote was, but it was like, Walt's like a bad person pretending to be good, Jesse's a good person pretending to be bad or something.
Yes.
Which is a very good way to put it, I feel. So, and Jesse Pinkman also honorable mention. So, one of the best written shows ever. That's my number 4.
Didn't you say one of your favorite lines is like they start like fight, like him and Walter Jr. and Skyler start fighting, and he goes, "We're a family." You know, he tries to justify everything, but it's all just a lie, and you find out the truth after that was just for him.
Especially when the baby's born, it's just like a tool he uses.
Yeah.
More than anything else. So, who you got at your number 4?
My number 4 is Darth Vader.
Ooh, I thought about it. And
I have to say, I'm excluding Anakin.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just Darth Vader's. Because they're so different.
Yes,
You
they are.
can't really like make the connection sometimes.
No, you don't. Every time you see the prequels, even when like if you watch the start of Revenge of the Sith, you're not like, oh, that guy's gonna turn to Darth Vader. Like, no, it's still such a far cry from what is supposed to happen. And so that's interesting because I thought about it, but I was like, the Anakin stuff isn't strong enough for me to justify putting Vader in there.
Yeah.
But if we're talking solely Vader, then yeah, I get it.
And I think actually what makes the two source materials that make him the best character for me is not A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back. It's Return of the Jedi and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I like that
because that's where you really see the conflict. A man who is kind of at the end of his line at Return of the Jedi, and Darth Vader, who's just born in the Kenobi series, where Luke sees the good in him. The great line is, "I'm a Jedi, like my father before me." You know, Luke never gave up on him, and that's where Darth Vader starts to think like, it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
And, throws him off. And
yeah, fantastic. And again, almost like Walter, where like he takes out a bigger bad, but he almost doesn't deserve to live himself. Yeah, after all the bad he's done, and it's not too late for redemption.
But it flips the script so well too with like the Chosen One arc, you know.
Yes.
Where like you don't like once he becomes Darth Vader, like there's no way this guy's the Chosen One. It was a lie. Let's go to Luke, you know. But at the end, I think Luke is the only one who knows that he fulfilled the prophecy. He really was a good guy in the end, and he finally broke through to him. And to the Kenobi series, I'll get into that for a little bit. The final fight, amazing. You see the mask break and Obi-Wan seeing his
and when you hear like the voice go from Hayden Christensen to James Earl Jones, it's fantastic stuff.
And you actually see like Anakin kind of shine through a little bit, like his good side kind of shining through a little bit in the fight, where he kind of like reassures Obi-Wan that he wasn't the one that killed Anakin, or Obi-Wan wasn't the one that killed Anakin. It was himself. It was Darth Vader, you know? So he's almost like, don't blame yourself a little bit in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Obi-Wan's been living in exile, kind of kicking rocks for so long.
It's like PTSD and stuff from everything.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Yeah. That's my number 4.
That's a great number 4. Also, I think I mentioned Luke. You could also mention Han, Yoda. Plenty of Star Wars characters could have been in here.
Yeah. What about Grogu?
Maybe not quite. I will
maybe
throw
one more somersault, and that'll solidify.
Maybe Book of Boba Fett, looking like a high school football coach.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I think Boba Fett is the most overrated character. Not even considering the Book of Boba Fett, because obviously, but like the return.
There hasn't been a time when Boba Fett wasn't overrated.
There was no reason for people to like him so much.
Yeah,
just because
it was like he looked cool. That was it.
Yeah.
How many people did he kill? Did we ever see him kill a single person on screen? I don't know.
Don't think so.
Yeah. So my number 3, a character you may not have ever even heard of. It was a cartoon series that was on MTV in the late 90s called Daria. And the main character, Daria Morgendorffer, is, I think, maybe one of the most accurate portrayals of a high school student, of someone coming of age. I always found the character very relatable. She's very she's herself. She doesn't really affiliate with too many people, but she has her friends. That's all she really needs. But she's very snarky, sarcastic, not like actively rebellious, but still just quietly rebellious in her own ways.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, describe, and it's very Y2K as well. It's very like, it was that first generation that was making less money than their parents. So there's this rage between everyone in the youth, and it's this angst, but it's very controlled. She's not like out of control or insecure about herself. She's still very comfortable in her own skin, but she's one of my favorite characters of all time. I can't say enough good things about that. And they got 2 TV movies as well.
Never heard of it.
So
Never
I highly recommend. Have you heard of Beavis and Butthead?
Yes.
This was a spin-off of Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So highly recommend. Highly recommend. So now we move on to your number.
3.
What was it? 3.
This actually also is a show I think we talk about that you haven't seen, and I'm talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen.
I'm talking about Zuko. Zuko is
the bad guy?
Predominantly, yeah. But he has the...
Yeah, is he the guy with the red thing like around his eye? Okay.
He has, I think, the most flawless arc.
Wow.
Ever. And the show also, it's a Nickelodeon cartoon, but it might be one of the greatest shows of all time. And Zuko...
You're not the first to say it.
I don't think I am. And he was like exiled by his father, and he said the only way he'll welcome him back is if he captures the Avatar, the main character. So for the most, I think, for the first season at least, maybe this half of the second, he's predominantly just chasing after making the Avatar's life a hell, and just to get back to what he was. He was the prince. He was the prince of the Fire Nation. And he's taken under his uncle's wing. His uncle also could be on this list. Amazing. And he's a great mentor, and he sees his frustration and anger. And he, tries to at least help him work through things, but he more so is trying to reel him in. And then Zuko starts to realize his faults and say he doesn't need his father anymore. He has a better life with his uncle, and a better life. He eventually becomes he goes to the Avatar gang, and he becomes friends, and he trains the Avatar in the way of fire. And he redeems himself, and he just a perfect flip the script I've ever seen. Can't say much more.
Yeah, have not seen it, but more often than not, the bad guys are always the more interesting characters.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen, especially lately, more and more movies and shows have been focusing more on that to lure people in. And it's worked more often than not, where, you have something like shows like Succession or Barry, where nobody's good. Like, everyone is a bad person in one way or another.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they've canned just the idea of a hero, which, to your point, you grew up watching this show, and the villain is the best character in your opinion. So,
yeah,
it's just the way it goes. So, my number 2, I have a villain, probably the greatest villain of all time. I have the Joker.
Yeah, probably the greatest villain.
Again, whatever interpretation you want to do, Mark Hamill, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, comics. There's been a few animated movies I've seen with good Jokers in them. Almost like Willy Wonka. You don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
You don't know where he's going. You don't know where his head's at. You don't know what his intentions are. But even then, you could say, oh, they're selfish. But again, it's just for chaos most of the time. Like in Dark Knight, we see him burn the money. That's what he's about. Just playing games with people more than anything else. And just screwing around. He doesn't care about his own personal gain as much as he cares about just ruining other people's lives one way or another. But a lot of times they deserve it, though, too. It's not quite a Thanos thing, but it's almost like he thinks he's doing the right thing. And sometimes you can say, okay, you're not on board with him killing somebody, but he's punishing someone who probably does deserve to be punished. So Joker, again, just it's not even worth analyzing, because he's literally just a crazy dude.
Yeah, I do like the whole thing with how him and Batman kind of need each other.
Yes, I've always liked how in Dark Knight he says you complete me. If without you, what am I here for?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Joker?
Heath Ledger. No.
Ledger.
Mark Hamill.
Yeah, mine's Hamill.
He's more definitive, I think.
Yeah, he's scary, but he's also funny, and his look is perfect. All the looks of the Joker have always been great too.
Yeah, Mark.
No matter who it is, it's an iconic look.
Mark Hamill's also the Joker in the Arkham series.
Is a Joker in all 3 games?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I should find a way to play those someday.
You should.
Because just to see the boys back at it again. So yeah, that's my number 2. Who you got for your number 2?
My number 2 was in your honorable mentions. and it is Tony Soprano.
Mm.
Now my number 2 and 1 could have changed, but I think this is
Okay.
This is a good spot for him.
Yeah.
Tony, the greatest anti-hero of all time.
Yeah, that really changed the game in terms of anti-heroes in movies and TV.
Yeah. Would you write an essay on this? Would you say?
I've written multiple essays on this.
Oh yes, you have.
And you saw it, and so have you.
He's so good. The Sopranos is so good. Tony Soprano is so good of a character that we've written projects and essays on this.
Yeah. Literally a culturally changing thing, not just changing TV.
Yeah. I mean, just the character himself redefines what a character can be on TV, you know? And you see, again, he's a mobster, a tough guy, but you see all these moments of weakness and vulnerabilities when he's talking to Melfi and when he's dealing with all his depression and his anxieties because, well, he's in a tough position. He's the captain, or, well, the boss of a mafia family.
And he's got to raise a family.
And he's got to raise a family, yeah. And
because I think one thing that made the show so good is it's equal parts mafia story and equal parts family drama.
Yeah, and it crosses the line a lot too because it's kind of like the same mafia and the mafia family and the family kind of intertwined. Like everyone knows what's going on and stuff like that. But it's also great because he tries to be two different men. And the 5th episode of the series, College, when he goes to take Meadow, there's
maybe the best episode of the show, honestly.
Probably, yeah. There's a scene where he looks up and he's in the college and like something along the lines of like when you try to be two men, like it kind of blurs the lines about who you really are, like something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Excusez-moi. And he, how good of a guy can you be when you are violent, misogynistic, manipulative, racist?
Yeah. But
he always has redeeming qualities. He's such a likable guy sometimes, but also a very fearful guy.
Yeah, I remember when I did his presentation I did on, or the essay, I can't remember which, but no, I think it was a presentation where I told the class, this is in high school, I told the class, I was like, anybody who watches Tony Soprano sees some of their father in him, one way or another. And not like in like the bad stuff for the murders, but because they show Tony just sitting on the couch. They show him getting up and it's the wrong orange juice and this, that, and the other. It's all like relatable stuff we've seen in life. So it's not so distant that like we can't like defend him really, or we admire him in a little strange way just because he feels familiar, I guess.
Yeah.
He feels part of our world one way or another. So,
good way.
But yeah, Tony could have easily been in my top 10.
Yes.
I think he didn't make it in probably because I thought like he doesn't like go through a crazy arc.
I think what's so appealing about him is that he doesn't have an arc, but it's more of a war in his head.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that makes sense. He's probably my 11, even though he didn't crack the 10. But now it's time for the big honcho. My number 1. I'm going with Indiana Jones.
Wow.
Yeah.
Surprising.
Is it? Okay. I think Indiana Jones is... Yeah, I think he's as good a character we've ever seen. Because he can be a little overconfident. He can be a little cocky. But more often than not, he backs it up. But sometimes it bites him in the ass. He's stubborn, but he still cares about other people. He still does what he can. He sticks his neck out for people who deserve it, not for people who don't. And again, we know he's had all these other adventures. Like, we don't know when he met Sala. We don't know his story with, what's his face? I can't remember. The British guy who also works in the museum. And so we know he's got more stories and more connections, and we're seeing glimpses of his adventures. We know he's had so many more. And every dynamic he's had, him and Sala, him with Belloc, we know there's a history there. Just in the first scene where he says, like, oh, treasures that briefly belonged to you now belong to me. And especially in the third one, one of the best movies ever. the dynamic between him and his father is amazing. So I can't say enough good things about Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford's portrayal is just masterful because he's a tough guy, he's rugged, he does his own thing, he's a loner more often than not, but he still has friends, and he's still very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel towards the new one coming out?
I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic. From all the trailers, I've been excited from what I see.
Yeah.
And the de-aging technology using this one looks better than anything we've seen before.
Yeah, it looks really
so
good.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it because, I mean, it seems more. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. That's all I can say.
And I like to see that this is Harrison Ford's passion project. You know, Indy was his character. He didn't really like Han as much.
No, I think he basically done with Han after Empire.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be there for Return of the Jedi, and they paid him enough money to come back for Force Awakens. But yeah, I do truly feel like he likes Indiana Jones. He actually likes playing it. He likes the character and the stories.
Yeah.
So, and that comes through on screen.
Yeah.
So that's my number one. Now, Mikey, hit me with it.
My number one is Mr. Many Saints himself, Christopher Moltisanti.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's the best side character of all time. And like I said, I could have went back and forth with him and Tony because of just their chemistry in the show. This is the type of arc where he kind of gets up and he falls straight down, you know?
Yep.
Where in the first season you can really see like he's just a guy, he's not a made guy, he's kind of scrappy and he kind of does what he can. And he's, you know, looking for acceptance from Tony, from the family.
He's doing errands.
There's a great line in the first season where he's like talking about like character arcs, and talking about like TV shows, and he goes, "Where's my arc?" You know, and he gets it. Not a great one. Well, it's a great one, but you know,
doesn't end well for him.
Yeah, I think it's so good because sometimes it just doesn't happen the way you want it to go, you know? He doesn't get a very ceremonious death. Sorry, guys, spoiler. He doesn't get a, like say, Walter White. Walter White's more ceremonious.
Yeah, much more poetic.
Yeah, you could see he's a guy who gave everything to his Uncle Tony, or cousin Tony. Cousins or uncles?
They use them interchangeably. I forget what the actual relation was.
Yeah, it was strange. Anyways.
I think like Christopher's dad was Tony's cousin. So I think they're technically second cousins, but like.
Okay. I thought he was like Carmela's cousin.
Oh, was it the other side?
That's what it said in the show, but in the Many Saints movie, it's shown
he's there.
He's Tony's like.
Yeah, there's baby Christopher's there.
I don't know.
Whatever it is, yeah.
Anyways, and he gives everything for Tony. And there's another great line that he says. He goes, "Tony Soprano, that's the man I'm going to hell for." And he really does. He gives it all up. And also a great story of addiction and falling to your mistakes, where he had good moments and bad moments with his addictions, and it finally got the best of him. And that's when Tony decided that it's his time.
Yeah, and we talked about before, the intervention episode is one of the best episodes of the show.
Yeah, that too. And also, he's a hilarious guy too.
Oh yeah, and that's another, like, it's a little cherry on top. I mean, Tony's funny too.
Yeah, of course.
That's a cherry on top, where with all these characters, where like they have these great arcs and dramatic moments, or interesting, or whatever. But if you're just a little funny, like, that changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It just sweetens the deal so much more.
Yep.
And now, fictional characters are great, but non-fictional characters are great too. Much like the ones you'll find on the Brinx, and Hearse podcast. My name has been Ryan McNeil.
Michael Ferrieri.
And we wish you folks a very Heidi.
Ho!